The old railway station stood frozen in time, wrapped in a white blanket of falling snow. The wooden platform creaked beneath the cold, and the iron tracks stretched into the fog like forgotten memories. A steam engine rested nearby, breathing slowly, its low hiss echoing through the silent morning. Few people passed through this place anymore. It was a station meant for endings, not beginnings. On a worn bench near the edge of the platform sat a woman who looked as if the winter itself had claimed her. Her clothes were torn and patched, barely holding together against the cold. Her feet were bare, red from the snow, pulled close to her chest as she hugged her knees. Small marks and bruises showed on her arms, signs of a life that had not been kind. Her hair was messy, loosely tied, and her head was lowered, as though she no longer had the strength to look at the world. She did not cry. Her silence was heavier than tears. She was once called Mary. Years ago, Mary had lived on a small ranch beyond the hills, where the fields rolled wide and the sky felt close enough to touch. She had laughed easily back then. She had a husband, a home, and a child who followed her everywhere. But life, like the trains that passed through this station, did not always stop where one hoped. A stormy night, a misunderstanding, harsh words spoken in anger, and a choice that could never be undone. Mary left. She believed it was better for her son to grow up without her than to watch her break. The road after that was cruel. Work was scarce, kindness rarer. Each winter took something from her, and each year pushed her further away from the woman she used to be. Now, she waited on that bench with no destination in mind. The train behind her was not hers to take. She was simply resting, gathering enough strength to stand again. Footsteps crunched softly through the snow. A tall man in a long brown coat stopped a few steps away. He wore a rancher's hat pulled low, his shoulders broad but heavy with years of responsibility. His face was lined, not just by age, but by regret. Beside him stood a small boy bundled in winter clothes, his cheeks red from the cold, his eyes wide with curiosity. The man's name was Thomas. Thomas had not planned to stop at this station. The train had slowed unexpectedly, and while waiting, he had stepped off with his son to stretch their legs. He hated trains. They reminded him too much of loss, of doors closing, of people who never came back. The boy tugged at his glove. "Papa," the child said softly. Thomas looked down. "Yes, son." The boy raised his small arm and pointed toward the bench. "That's my mama." The words hit Thomas like a sudden winter wind. His heart skipped, then pounded so loudly he was sure the station could hear it. He followed the direction of the boy's finger, his breath catching in his throat. At first, he saw only a poor woman, broken, silent, invisible to the world. But then he noticed the way she held herself, the curve of her shoulders, the familiar sadness that mirrored his own. Memories rushed back, a laugh carried by summer air, hands covered in flour, a voice singing softly at night. "No," he whispered, though his legs were already moving. Mary did not hear him approach. She was lost somewhere far away, in a place where pain felt distant and hope dangerous. It was only when a shadow fell across her feet that she slowly lifted her head. Their eyes met. Time stopped. The years between them collapsed into a single breath. Thomas saw the woman he once loved behind the scars of hardship. Mary saw the man she had never stopped missing, standing taller than her memories but carrying the same eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. The boy broke the silence. He stepped forward, his small boots sinking into the snow. "Mama?" he asked, unsure but hopeful. Mary's hands began to tremble. She looked at the child's face, the same eyes, the same gentle curve of the mouth. Tears finally escaped, tracing warm paths down her cold cheeks. "I didn't think," she whispered. "I didn't think you'd remember me." Thomas knelt beside her, ignoring the snow soaking into his coat. "He never forgot," he said quietly. "Neither did I." Mary shook her head. I left. I failed you both. Thomas took a deep breath. You were lost, he said. So was I. But being lost doesn't mean you're gone forever. The steam train behind them released a long whistle, as if urging time forward again. Snow continued to fall, soft and forgiving. The boy reached out, slipping his small hand into Mary's. She held it like something precious and fragile, afraid it might disappear. Come home, Thomas said at last. Mary looked up at him, fear and hope battling in her eyes. Are you sure? Thomas nodded. The ranch is still there. So is your place in it. For the first time in years, warmth touched Mary's heart, not from the coat Thomas placed around her shoulders, but from the knowledge that some endings were only pauses. As the train prepared to leave, 3 figures stood together on the platform, no longer strangers to one another. The old railway station, frozen in time, had witnessed something rare that day, not a goodbye, but a return. And as the snow continued to fall, it gently covered the past, making room for a new beginning.